Good morning. Hi, this is Steve Sabadeski, Bayoubuzz.com, and I'm pleased today to have Treasurer John Kennedy on a Hangout webcast interview, and along with an associate of mine, Wayne Nix, who is from Yountsville, if I'm not mistaken, Louisiana. Treasurer Kennedy, good morning to you, and I know we have 15 minutes, so we have a lot on the plate, and we might have some people who might want to ask questions or comment. Good morning to you.
And good morning to you, Stephen, and to Wayne.
Thank you so much. 2 years ago, we did a Google Hangout interview, and so we're going a little bit further with the webcast.
Steve Sabadeski, Bayou.
Sorry about that.
Okay, I think there was a window open. So, having said that, what I want to ask you first, if you don't mind, is to you've written a number of different op-ed pieces. One, of course, being about a number of these reserve funds that have been depleted, and if you could at least take us through that, tell us about these reserve funds that some of them have like almost $500 million. At least one of them had $500 million, and now is close to being depleted. So please go ahead and tell us.
As you know, Steve, we're spending more money than we take in. That means they've got to fill the hole some way. They've either got to raise taxes, or they've got to cut spending, or they've got to resort to accounting maneuvers. So they've resorted to accounting maneuvers. And one of the things they've done is spend all the taxpayer money in the state's savings accounts. For example, they have spent about $500 million in the state's health insurance program. We're self-insured for health insurance. Retirees and employees pay money in to the fund. The state matches it. It had about $500 million in it a year or so ago. At the rate they're spending, in short order, it'll be down to zero. The state had, a few years ago, $850 million in a savings account or a trust fund we had set aside for health care for the elderly. We were supposed to leave the principal alone, invest it, and spend the interest. They spent all of that. At the end of this fiscal year, that $850 million will be zero. Basically, what the state's done is spend more than it's taken in, and try to fill the hole by cutting higher education and spending all of the money in our savings accounts.
I thought that we were supposed to live between our means. I thought that we're not supposed to use a credit card.
Well, we're not. We're not under the Constitution.
So we're
and our biggest problem, obviously, we have a number of budgetary issues, but our biggest spending issue is health care. We're spending about somewhere in the neighborhood of $9.5 billion a year out of a $25 billion budget on health care, and we're not doing much to contain that cost. It goes up 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7% every year. I know you've read the stories about all the things that have been done by DHH to save money, but I don't know where the money is being saved, because every budget I look at every year, the spending goes up anywhere from 3% to 6 or 7%, and they have achieved that extra spending by cutting our universities. We need to do some wholesale reform in our healthcare delivery system. What we've done so far is help, I guess, but it's not really solved the problem.
I see. Now, we're waiting to find out from the Obama administration regarding our proposal to them in Medicaid. What if we get a no from the Obama administration in terms of the funding of those hospitals?
Well, there is no plan B. Our plan A is in effect. We've got to make it work because there is no plan B. In order for plan A to work, we need the blessing of the federal government, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. So far, the center has refused to give us its blessing. We don't have much information. The negotiations are going on between the Department of Health and Hospitals and the federal government, but I can tell you it's very important that we make it work because there is no plan B. There is no plan B. We've privatized the charity hospitals. I think the good news is that the quality of care is better. I truly believe that. I can't prove it, but I believe it based on anecdotal evidence. We haven't saved the money we thought we would save. I can tell you that. Maybe the savings will come later. I certainly hope so. But so far, we haven't saved any money. In fact, we've spent more money than we were spending.
I see. So in terms of numbers, I mean, I've heard things, about we might be $1 million in a whole, $1 billion in the hole next year. Do you have any feel for what that hole might be in terms of the budget?
It looks like right now it's going to be about $1.2 billion. And I base that on the fact that the current budget, which started July 1, is about $25 billion, as you know, Steve. It contains $992 million of one-time money, which means we'll spend it this year. And this time next year, that $992 million will be gone, but the expenses that it paid for will still be there. We'll start out about $1.2 billion in the hole. How will they fill the hole? I don't know. The administration says it has a plan. I don't know the details of their plan. It's basically at this juncture, trust me. I hope they do have a plan. I hope they can achieve their plan by reducing the spending in health care without impacting quality of care, and it can be done. I hope they don't tear the guts out of our universities again. We have cut since 2008, after figuring in the tax increases, the tuition increases, we cut higher ed about $700 million. And I don't know how UNO and LSU and Southern and our other universities are making it. But the administration has not shared its plan yet for filling the hole, so we'll see. I mean, I'm obviously worried about it. I hope we don't have mid-year budget cuts. We've had mid-year budget cuts for the last 6 years. What we desperately need in state government is some budget stability, and we haven't achieved that in a while. And until we do, we won't be able to fix our health care system. We won't be able to lift up our schools, and we're not going to be able to build the roads that we need to get built.
I see. Now, I know that you've been trying to say reduce the state contracting in terms of the number of contracts that we let, and the legislature actually passed legislation to do so, but the governor vetoed it. Am I correct?
Yes, we had a bill this year. It was the third time we presented the bill, and this year it passed to direct through the Joint Legislative Budget Committee all the agencies in state government to reduce their spending on consultants. We have, I don't know, tens and thousands, 19,000 consulting contracts, most of which are with out-of-state companies. Some of them add value, but a lot of them don't, and everybody knows that. The legislature voted unanimously, both the House first and then the Senate voted unanimously to achieve some savings by reducing consulting contracts. Basically, our goal was a modest 10%. Which I thought would be a good start. I'd like to do more, but that was what I could get through the legislature. I think it would have saved a minimum of $100 million, probably a lot more if we did it right. The money was going to be spent on our universities, try to help them out, and the governor vetoed the bill, so we'll be back next year.
What was the reason for vetoing?
Bobby didn't call me about it. He vetoed it. Based on his comments in the paper, I sensed that he believes it was inconsistent with his privatization plans, which I understand his point of view. I just don't agree with it. I don't think it had anything to do with privatization. I think it had to do with spending less money on these out-of-state consultants and using the money for a higher priority, which in my opinion was education.
I see. You mentioned he hasn't talked to you about it. When was the last time you talked to him, if I might ask?
Well, every governor has his own management style.
Sure.
I've served with 4 of them. Governor Jindal is not a micromanager. He's a macro manager. He doesn't tend to interact a lot directly. He goes through staff. Let me think. I think the last time I've actually spoken to the governor is probably 18 months, 2 years, something like that.
Okay. So let's move on to a different subject, one that you were certainly outspoken about, and that deals with the state police retirement fund. Now, you wrote an op-ed about it, and basically what you said was, well, you asked questions. You were real concerned about it, and some things have happened since that op-ed. Number one, the state police superintendent has said that he's not going to take the increase in retirement amount, and the governor has actually said, I think yesterday, that he's against the legislation that he signed and approved.
Right.
So I'm just wondering, are you going to go further with you had requested a hearing, the state retirement board, am I correct?
Yes.
And what's going on with that?
We have to go forward, and here's why. And this isn't about personalities. I know Colonel Edmondson well. He's a fine person. This has nothing to do with personalities. The state police retirement system, on whose board I sit as a trustee with a fiduciary duty to taxpayers, has a deficit of $327 million. That's how much they're in the hole. We asked to get the facts about this bill. We just got the facts in a report that's been published. What the report found, and I think we know the facts, that in the waning days of the legislative session, in a closed-door meeting, an amendment was added to a bill that would give only two troopers, special treatment. And it would cost the retirement system somewhere in the neighborhood of between $300,000 and $1 million. I felt like and feel like that was wrong for 2 reasons. First, the cost. I already explained we have a deficit. Second, fairness. I don't care whether you're a prince or a pauper or a king or a pawn. You're supposed to be treated equally with everybody else. And this was a case, it's clear, of given special treatment. Colonel Edmondson and the other trooper involved have said they're not going to take the benefit, but they reserve the right to come back to the legislature next spring. The governor originally said nothing about it, but recently yesterday said, okay, I knew about the bill, but I didn't know it just affected 2 people. I think what we need to do as fiduciaries to protect the system is to get this law off the books. It's still on the books. It's going to be on the books until it's taken off. And our lawyers say it's unconstitutional. And what I'd like to do is file a declaratory judgment and get a court of final jurisdiction to say that, and then we don't have anything to fight over anymore or disagree about. If we don't do that, you're just assuming that that the legislature will be asked to repeal this law, and frankly, I'm not prepared to assume that right now.
You know, one thing that gets me is that the bill did not have a fiscal note. Am I correct?
They had one, but they added it 3 days after the legislative session.
3 days after, and the governor signed it with the fiscal note. So even though he might have known about Emerson actually being one of the 2 people, he didn't look at the fiscal note to see, well, this is only $300,000.
Well, we've asked for at our September 4th. That's a good question, Steve. We've asked at our meeting on September 4th for the governor's executive council to be there. Mr. Thomas Enright, he's a fine lawyer. He recommended the governor sign the bill. I don't know if Thomas is going to come, but we've asked him to come. But this issue is pretty straightforward. There's special treatment has been given, and that's not only illegal, it's morally wrong, and we need to fix it. Now, this is about ethics, morality, if you will, honesty with taxpayers. You either believe in ethics or you don't. You know, it doesn't do any good to talk the talk if you're not willing to walk the walk. And, you know, religion is what you do in your life after the sermon's over. Okay? We can all give sermons and listen to sermons, but religion is what you do about it. It's your actions. And the action that it's clear to me that we need to take, if we truly believe this was wrong, is to go get the law declared unconstitutional. And then we don't need to worry about what the legislature is going to do or what some future legislature is going to do. We'll get this bad law off the books, and that's what we ought to do. And I'm hoping the governor, I take him at his word that he didn't know it just impacted 2 people. I hope he'll join with us to file this lawsuit.
One last question, Common Core. The courts, at least one of the judges yesterday, has ruled it went against the administration, and so the Common Core is proceeding in Louisiana along with the PARC exam, and I'm just wondering, do you think we're gonna see some kind of end to this big debate here in Louisiana that is now percolated nationwide, with Governor Jindal actually making it a major issue? I'm just wondering, what's your take on it?
I don't think we'll see the end of the debate. My understanding of the lawsuit is that the ruling of the court was that the preliminary injunction would not be granted. And of course, you're a lawyer. What you and I both know what that means is the governor had gone into court and said, stop the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education from implementing Common Core, and I want an injunction. The court has said, no, I'm not going to give you an injunction right now. I may give you an injunction later, but I'm going to conduct a trial first. I think the trial, don't hold me to this, is scheduled within the next month or so. But that's when all the lawyers will come present their evidence. What's going to happen, I don't know. Whatever does happen will be appealed to the Supreme Court. So I think this issue is going to be on the table for a long time.
Well, I know that you have to get to Lafayette. You can say hi to Wayne. Wayne lives around Lafayette. And listen, thank you so much. Hopefully we can do this again. We did it 2 years ago, and hopefully now that we got this technology down, we can make it a more frequent occasion.
Thank you for having me, Steve. Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you so much. Okay, take care of yourself. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.